Time now for another hard-hitting installment of Creepy Cheapies, where we look for the best in mass-produced Halloween masks. Now, tonight's mask came out in 2012, and well, it's one of the most famous monsters of all time, like Frankenstein and Dracula. Probably the third most popular and famous monster of all time after Frankenstein and Dracula, I would say, and that would be the Wolfman. Now, this particular Wolfman, sculpted by one of the great, unheralded, I think, mask artists, the late, great Ray Hikus. Ray was one of the most talented and creative guys in the mask history, and he was very, very smart. He was just a brilliant guy and a good friend and a very creative and talented artist. A great imagination and very, very professional. And Ray passed away in 2014, and we miss him. It was a great loss to the entire mask collecting and making community, because he was one of a kind, Ray was. But anyway, one of Ray's last mask projects was to do 3 classic monsters from Universal Studios' classic Golden Age monster movies. They were the Frankenstein monster, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, and the Wolfman. And these were produced by Forum Novelties. And sometimes people have negative things to say in collector circles about the Wolfman mask, and I would just like to set the record straight as far as it not being Ray's fault if there's something you don't like about the Wolfman mask. Ray did a beautiful sculpture, perfectly professional, and a very good sculpture. So you have to blame the foibles, it's a good word, isn't it, of mass production for anything you don't like about the mask. Like, for example, when you first take it out of the package and you go, okay, here it is, my new Forum Wolfman mask, and it's going to look a lot like this. And you're going to look at that and you're going to say, what the hell is that? A Swiffer mop that got out of control or something? But don't say that, because for one thing, using curse words never helps anything. It never does. And for another thing, it's always better to light even a single candle than it is to curse the darkness. So, instead of being appalled at how they did the hair on these things, look at it and think, what can I do to make this Wolfman mask a little bit better and make the sculpture shine the way it deserves, to make the mask look a little better. Now, again, Ray was not the one who decided that the mask would be produced with fun fur or sheet fur, you know, that's acrylic fur on sort of a net backing, you know, that substance, often called fun fur at the craft stores and so forth. That substance was used all over the back and the head here, and it's glued on. It is a full head latex mask, as I think you can see. It's so deluxe, meant to be deluxe, it even has Velcro closures in the back, so when you put it on, you can put it together. But some suit at Universal made the brilliant call to put fun fur all over the head, and then this long hair on the face. And I guess on paper, that probably seemed pretty clever, because, you know, it would give the effect of nice, long, realistic, animalistic hair on the face, and not take as much time and money and care to put fun fur all over the rest of it as it would to put hair all over the whole. But anyway, the problem with it is, you know, in the first place, I think it's almost backwards logic. It's almost the opposite of the way it should have been. Really, if you're going to have 2 different types of hair on there, it would really make more sense for him to have long, messy hair all over and then shorter hair on the face, instead of the opposite like they have done here. And another problem is that the color they chose, again, selected by people at Universal who maybe aren't the biggest Wolfman fans out there, not chosen by Ray himself. The color choices don't really work, for me anyway. I don't know if you can see this too well on your viewing monitor of choice, but the hair on the face, around the face, is very, very red. The long, floppy, shiny hair is red hair, which is okay because Red Wolfman looks cool, but this hair is so not red that it kind of clashes. And in person, this hair is so red, it almost makes this hair look a little bit greenish. it's an ugly color combination. It really doesn't work well, the red hair with the non-red hair. And of course, how is anyone going to wear this? This is supposed to be a wearable mask. Again, Velcro closures in the back, nice bib in the front, nice long neck bib you can tuck into your costume, trimmed mouth, nostrils, and eye holes, and then they put this silly floppy hair on there that won't stay in place. So, you know, you're going to be displeased with that, but there are some very simple things you can do. Now, first of all, this one, exactly the same. All I did was take a little bit of ordinary hairspray and spray it around, spray it in place. Now, you could use regular hairspray, or you could use Krylon Crystal Clear, which is a little more permanent. In either case, look what a big difference it makes. But you kind of have to put a lot of hairspray on this upper part to get it to lay in place the way it really should. But once you've done that, there you are. You have a much, much nicer mask. It costs nothing. It takes, you know, 5 minutes, and you've got a much better mask of the Wolfman. And now, you know, if I was working at the haunted house, or going to a Halloween party, or a monster convention, or taking my kids trick-or-treating, or greeting the trick-or-treaters on my own porch, or just peeking in my neighbor's windows just to worry them, as Wolfman, I could do it with the hair sprayed back. Just take a comb and brush it back just a little bit, and there you are, and it looks much nicer. Now, another one of the complaints about this mask is that there's barely any paint on the face, and I'd have to agree, there's not much paint on the face. Again, that's not the fault of the sculptor, Ray. That's the fault of the suits at Universal, who maybe aren't the biggest Wolfman aficionados out there. One of the complaints you hear is that he doesn't have a dark nose. And really, in the movies, the nose looks only slightly darker than the rest of the Wolfman's face. But years and years of Wolfman masks, toys, novelties, etc. Have made it so that the Wolfman's nose is actually pretty much black, or at least very dark, in the public consciousness, you see. So I think with that in mind, they really would have been smarter to have made the nose a little darker, because when everything's the same color like this, you kind of lose his Wolfmanishness, and he looks a bit more like Bela Lugosi as either the Ape Man or the Sayer of the Law from Island of Lost Souls than he does our old friend Lon Chaney Jr. as Larry Talbot the Wolfman. So I think another thing you may want to do, if you know someone who retouches masks, or if you're good with an airbrush, is add a little shading along the dark lines of the face. Now, I've never seen one of these completely redone, completely and fully redone with a nice, very realistic, high-end pro hair job. But, and here's the big but, Laura did a face job on one of them, just the face, just took off this red, and let me just move this one out of the way here, time being. Just took off the long shiny red hair and replaced it with crepe hair that is more the color of the hair on the back and sides, and this is the result. And the other thing that's been done to this one is I took the airbrush and I went back and added a little dark brown paint to the shadow areas of the mask, that is the wrinkles and creases, and I darkened his nose a bit. I didn't make it black because I think that's a bit too stark, a bit too extreme, a bit cartoonish even, but I did darken some of the lines of the face in. Now, I think this looks cool, but I can see how maybe everybody doesn't want to do it this way, because you could argue that this looks like a whole different mask, because when you do this, you have more of a color difference, more of a contrast between the skin and the hair, which means you have a sharper hairline. Now, that could be dealt with too. This could be blended together. Hair could be used that is blended in such a way that it lightens toward the face, or you could darken the face, darken the paint job all over, more than I did here, to bring that all together. But this will give you an idea of how much nicer the hair can look if you take that silly long red hair off of there. unless you like that color red, in which case spray it back like I've done with this one. And again, this may be too much of a change for some people. This may be too, maybe you don't want it to look this different from the edition. Maybe you want it to look more different. But again, don't hate the mask, because it's a cool mask overall. Don't hate the mask. Hate the guy at Universal who said, yeah, let's put ridiculously long shiny hair on the front that doesn't look anything like his hair looked in any of the movies, and that will flop down over the wearer's eyes, and let's not put any shading or coloring on the face. Be mad at that guy. Don't be mad at this cool mask that resulted in spite of the input from the higher up executives at Universal. It's still a nice mask, just maybe needs a little bit of TLC. What does that stand for? Too late, Charlie? Oh, I forget. Whatever it stands for, TLC. Use a little care, a little attention, and you can make a nice thing out of it, because it really is a great sculpture. And it's right up there with some of the nicest mass-produced masks you've ever seen in terms of the sculpture. But the hair is what's throwing it for people. So that is my recommendation on the Forum Novelties Wolfman mask. A very cool, interesting mask of one of the great classic monsters. And you know, lots of Wolfman masks have been done over the years, and in the days of like the Don Post Wolfman and the Savage Eye Wolfman and Rubies and Elusive Concepts and all the other companies that have done Wolfman masks, the people knew at that time, all those times, that the nose should be darker than the face. This is kind of an anomaly in Wolfman masks, that everything's all one color and that he's got two very distinct hair colors. That's very unusual. And one more tip about the Forum Novelties masks. Their latex is it's a little different from many mask companies' formulations of latex that they use. So sometimes the Forum masks are kind of smushed out of shape, and they look all bent or compressed or distorted in some way. And I've heard collectors express concern that, oh, those masks are all crushed when you get them, and they're all permanently out of shape. And that's not true. It's true of me. I'm permanently out of shape, but it's not necessarily true of the masks. You just need to, work on it. Work on it a little bit. For one thing, make sure they're stuffed properly into their intended molded shape. And I actually spoke to a representative of Forum Novelties at one point, and I said, what do you recommend people do when they get a mask from you guys, and from shipping and packing and being in the warehouse and all that, the mask is crushed and distorted and maybe got a crease in it or something. What do you recommend people do about that? And he said to hit it with a blow dryer for a couple of minutes. Personally, I don't see how that's going to make any difference, but the people at Forum Novelties would certainly know their own product, so that's what I'll do. See you next time.